You're listening to AI Prism from Seoul Economic Daily.
It's Monday, May 11th. I'd like to share some thoughts about Industry Daily. Imagine you're trying to build a multi-billion-dollar naval warship, but you suddenly realize the steel hull doesn't actually matter anymore. Only the software does.
Right, which is exactly the kind of structural shift we are looking at today.
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive into how South Korean industry is fighting for survival under massive external pressure and, how that pressure is forcing them to completely rewrite their business models. From ocean shipping all the way to, well, your local gas pump.
Yeah, and to understand the survival strategy, you really have to look at South Korea's big three shipbuilders. So that's Samsung Heavy Industries, HD Hyundai, and Hanwha Ocean.
Right, because for decades, they dominated global markets just by bending metal better and cheaper than almost anyone else.
Exactly. But competing purely on hardware is, it's a losing game now. So they are making this massive pivot towards software.
Partnering with international tech firms, right?
Yeah, like Israel's Orca AI for vision-based navigation. Or U.S. defense firms like Anduril and Havoc AI for unmanned autonomous vessels.
I really want to understand the end game here. Are they essentially trying to become like the iOS of the ocean?
That's a great way to put it.
Where the U.S. Navy might build the apps, like the specific weapon systems, but they're entirely dependent on Korean code to actually run the vessel.
That is precisely the mechanism at play, because there are two major revenue pools opening up right now. First, commercial ships desperately need software to meet the International Maritime Organization's strict new environmental and labor compliance rules.
Right.
And second, the U.S. Navy is pouring money into unmanned warships.
Oh, wow. So if Korean yards provide the AI brain that controls, say, underwater drones or autonomous navigation.
They aren't just selling a ship anymore. They're locking themselves into the U.S. defense supply chain so deeply that it becomes impossible to design around them.
So it's survival through indispensable software.
Exactly.
But, while the shipbuilders face this technological pressure abroad, domestic energy giants are absorbing a totally different kind of shock right at home. You've probably felt the sting of fluctuating gas prices lately.
Oh, for sure. And governments hate that. Which is why on March 13th, the South Korean government instituted a retail gasoline price cap.
To shield consumers from global oil spikes. But doesn't that just create an immediate crisis for the middleman?
It absolutely does. When the government caps what you can charge at the pump, but the wholesale price of global oil keeps climbing.
Someone has to eat that loss.
Right. And in Korea, gas stations aren't usually owned by the big refiners. They were small, independent franchises.
Oh, I see.
So that retail ceiling crushed their margins so fast that around 80 small business stations went bankrupt or just paused operations almost overnight.
Wait, if the independent franchises are going under, why is SK Energy stepping in to bail them out? They're one of Korea's major chaebol, right? Large family-run conglomerates.
Yeah, they are.
I'm reading they just rolled out a 20 billion won support scheme, which is about $14 million every month for 2,500 of their franchise stations. Doesn't that just destroy the corporate balance sheet?
Well, it does hurt their margins. But letting the retail network collapse is worse. If the stations close, SK Energy literally has nowhere to sell its fuel.
Oh, so the corporation is effectively footing the bill for a government mandate.
Exactly. They act as a massive financial shock absorber so the local infrastructure doesn't shatter under market interventions.
Wow. That domestic balancing act feels like a miniature version of the ultimate geopolitical tightrope Korean industrials have to walk between the U.S. and China.
Oh, the stakes there are even higher. Look at LG Display. They are aggressively recruiting U.S. STEM PhDs in Los Angeles right now.
All right, they have to capture top American talent to secure U.S. contracts.
Yeah, and comply with things like the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act.
Which are U.S. policies explicitly designed to decouple supply chains from China. But wait, I'm looking at our notes here. And at the exact same time, KOTRA, the National Trade Promotion Agency, is actively matchmaking Korean battery materials firms with major Chinese giants like CATL and Shenzhen.
Yeah, it sounds contradictory.
How can they play both sides of a decoupling world?
It all comes down to cathode chemistry. Cathodes are the most expensive, vital component of an EV battery. They determine its range and power.
Okay.
And mid-tier Korean suppliers currently cannot survive without Chinese raw materials and chemical processing expertise.
So KOTRA steps into the shadows to maintain those critical Chinese lifelines for battery materials.
Right. While the top-tier tech firms put on a very public smile for U.S. regulators.
It really is a fascinating, precarious two-front war. So before you go, chew on this for a second.
Okay.
If a Korean-built autonomous warship is running on U.S. defense AI, but relies on battery systems ultimately tied to Chinese cathode chemistry.
Oh, wow.
In a global supply chain crisis, who actually holds the keys to that ship?
That is a terrifying question to leave off on.
That's today's AI Prism, Industry Daily. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic Daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI Prism is a One Eye Foray award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI Prism from Seoul Economic Daily.